Episode 20 with Fran Strine and Ray Parker Jr. Hi everyone, my name's Dan Stones, and you're listening to Barnraisers, the #1 podcast for teams. It's a day full of firsts for Barnraisers, and that's because this episode is the first time we welcome back a guest for their second visit to the show. Not only that, but I have the pleasure of sharing a conversation with not one, but two amazing guests. And I've got to tell you that as much as I've loved every single episode I've done for this show, this has to be one of the most fun episodes I can remember. First of all, I want to welcome our new listeners to the show. And of course, if you're a regular listener, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for telling your friends about us. So for all those newcomers out there, what's Barnraisers all about? Well, the clue's in the title, or the subtitle, I should say. Barnraisers is simply a collection of conversations with the world's ultimate team players. Our guests hail from all corners of the globe and from all walks of life. Whether it's the world of business, sports, science, the arts, or even the FBI, the common thread is that they all have something unique, interesting, and entertaining to share with us about teams. And not just any old team, no siree. On this show, I take you behind the scenes of some of the most successful teams and collaborations on the planet. And now, it's time to enjoy the show. The smash hit song Ghostbusters is part of the soundtrack for the 1980s, and thanks to that song, Ray Parker Jr. now occupies a very well-deserved seat at the 80s pop culture table. Understandably, he really should need no introduction. But as well known as Ray, the solo artist responsible for one of the biggest pop songs in history might be, in many ways a proper introduction is exactly what he deserves. Ray Parker Jr. was born on May 1st, 1954 and grew up in Detroit, Michigan. And long before anyone had ever even considered who to call, Ray enjoyed a stellar career, starting out as a teenage session guitarist, playing behind some of the biggest names of the era, including The Temptations, Stevie Wonder, The Spinners, Gladys Knight and the Pips, and other famous Motown acts. It was in 1972 when Stevie Wonder called and asked Ray to play behind him on a tour that he was doing with the Rolling Stones. Funnily enough, Ray thought it was a crank call and hung up the phone. Stevie Wonder called back and convinced Ray that he was the real deal by singing Superstition. At the time, Ray was just 18 years old. Work with Barry White followed, as did more work with Stevie Wonder, and Ray started his own band. And with radio, it was a runaway success. The first record with the band went gold, peaking at number 8 in the spring of 1978, with the hit singles Jack and Jill and Honey I'm Rich. The hits continued over the years with You Can't Change That, Two Places at the Same Time, and all of it followed by a #1 gold record, A Woman Needs Love, in 1981. Ray's solo career followed, with more hit singles, more gold records, and most importantly, as far as this podcast is concerned, even more collaborations. This story of Ray Parker Jr. is amazing and it's fascinating. And the music he's made is really only just one part. For instance, Ray was someone who experienced and fortunately escaped the violence of the 1967 Detroit riots. He's also one of the most prolific session guitarists, songwriters, and stars of a generation. And right now, thanks to our second guest, film director and Barnraiser alum, Fran Strine, Ray's story is all set to be captured on the silver screen. Of course, long-time listeners might recall Fran from episode 3, when I caught up with him to talk about Hired Gun, the documentary that has since taken Netflix and the world by storm. As you'd expect, it's been quite the ride, and Fran has not surprisingly handled it all in his stride. Cool as ever and ever mindful of the importance and value of running with a committed and cohesive team. I know I've gone on long enough in this intro, but I thought it was really important to set the scene and let you know that Ray is perhaps one of the most experienced and successful collaborators and team players on the planet. Just don't tell him that. He's not quite down with it just yet. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Now together, these two guys make quite the dynamic duo. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to let loose Ray Parker Jr. and Fran Strine. First of all, Fran, I mean, you caught up with me, I think, on episode 3, just as Hired Gun was coming out. And if ever there's been a wild ride since that day, I mean, it was the day, I think, of the international release. So what's been going on and what sort of ride have you been on?
Yeah. Well, Ray's been on this ride with me, man. He's all over the world and all over the country helping promote Hired Gun with me. We did a big Grammy run. We were one of the finalists to be nominated for a Grammy. So we went to Chicago, Nashville, San Francisco, my home base right now, and then here in LA, and it was great. Packed houses, and did Q&As and whatnot, and did not make the final ballot, but just to be on the initial ballot was a thrill for me. And then it hit Netflix, and I think it may have hit Netflix worldwide December 1st. And when that happened, everything just went nuts.
Yeah. Well, the best part of this thing is Grammys award. Forget all that. Yeah. There's so much traction on this movie. Everybody I know has said they saw me on this film. Yeah. And I've been in a couple other films. I won't mention names, but they didn't get this much attention. And, everybody has really seen this. So this has actually penetrated the marketplace.
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's a reason for that. Having seen it a couple of times now, I think people can, reflect on themselves and see themselves in that role. They're not necessarily the stars of the show in the world, but hey, they're making a contribution. And I think to see a group get that recognition and have that say, I think it's really powerful.
Just 5 minutes ago, before we called you in, Ray has a guest coming in tomorrow, Bill Withers, into the studio. And, the song Lovely Day. So we had Alexa play Lovely Day, and Ray picks up the guitar and goes, I played on this song. And I'm like, you got to be, so that was an experience for me and one of our producers here. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. You played on Bill Withers' Lovely Day. He goes, not only just Lovely Day, but a bunch of his big hits. Yeah. So that was the thrill for me, just to sit next to him while he's playing it. And, the feeling I had was just like, that is so freaking cool, man. And he came up with the part, the guitar part. It wasn't like it was already there. So that's thrilling for me as a viewer. I'm making a movie about Ray Parker Jr. I'm like, tell me everything about you. He failed to tell me about this. I'm like, what else aren't you telling me, man? We got a movie to make. A lot of
stuff. He's holding it back for the sequel. Hey, one of those things I wanted to ask you about this whole experience, the whole Hired Gun thing, and both of you, is what's probably been either the most surprising or just the wildest part of this whole ride? Is there something that jumps out in your memory where you just think, well, I would never, ever, ever have expected that would have happened as a result of doing this film?
That I haven't been sued by Billy Joel. No, a lot of people are surprised about Billy Joel, but I think that they forget that I put a part in the movie where he gets ripped off the $90 million. That was in there for a reason,
That's a significant amount of money.
Yeah. It's a lot of money. And when you get ripped off that hard, you have your bandmates come in that you're already paying a handsome salary to. Yeah. And they're asking you for more money while you're down. That's to be expected.
When I saw the movie, I didn't really think that bad of Billy Joel. I thought, well, you got a group of musicians. First of all, I thought it was rude that they didn't get terminated properly. I mean, It'd been nice to get a phone call. There's no reason to just ignore somebody. But at the same time, when you're dealing with artists, and we were having this discussion over lunch about a bunch of other artists, the bigger the star or the bigger genius they are, the more strange they are, just a little bit. They're not right with the program, and you really can't expect them to be with the program, Yeah. And you can speak to any concert promoter or any record company executive. If they get good relations with the stars, they know how to talk to crazy people. That's just the way it is, So they're just a little bit off. What takes them, the creativity over there, it takes the rest of them, the other way. It's just the way it is,
Yeah, a balance. I suppose you're extreme one side, there's going to be extreme something missing the other side.
Billy Joel paid those guys a lot of money. It looked like a lot of years, 25 years or 30 years. That's a long time. Most people can't keep a job 25 years, And the idea that he fired them in not a nice way, I got that part. Yeah. But, 25 years of that much money should have saved a lot of money. There should be a lot in the bank there. So the guilt lies more than just one way, I would think.
Yeah, and I think also, Ray, we talk about on this show, it's all about teams and collaboration and stuff like that. Yeah. I want to get right into that with you. One of the things that comes out of that, in order to have collaboration, there's got to be some gratitude there along the way. The minute the gratitude goes when you're working with two people, I think something starts to fall away and it starts to erode.
Any musician who doesn't write songs and who's not a singer himself, he's not the lead singer of the band. I mean, if he can get in a band and somebody pay him those types of dollars, especially for 25 years in a row, that's about as good as it gets for a musician.
Yeah, I would have thought so. And the other thing is I actually sat down, and Fran, you'd be interested, I sat down with Mark Schulman and did an interview with him not long ago. And we talked a lot about, obviously, teams. He's a team guy and we got along famously. But the idea about culture in a band or in a group or in these collaborations. And he talked about, obviously, he's working with Pink and the extent to which he holds her in such a high regard for the culture she has for everyone in her organization. I mean, when you sit there and you say, Ray, for you, you've been playing with anyone and everyone. I've listed it out in the intro. So that the intro goes for 10 minutes, by the way, as I read out all these credits. But all these people, what sort of cultures do you see? Is there sort of a type of culture, or is everyone so different that you work with? Everyone is really, really different. Not one person is close to the next person. I remember Barry White wanted to go in the studio. He would like to pay you triple scale and say, I got 9 hours. I want to get 6 songs. And if you finish the 6 songs, you can go home early and keep the money. I don't care. I want this. I got this much money for this many songs. But if you don't get it in time, you stay here late and get it done. But this is the deal. That's it. And he liked to cut it all in one day. And then you got other artists, they'll spend months cutting the same song. Mm-hmm. Right? And neither one is right. Both of them will have hits. So neither one is right. It's just one guy's mind works this way, another guy's mind works that way. And it's, some people know exactly what they want. Some people come in lost and waiting on you to create the part for them, or they can hear it when it's together. So everything's different. Yeah, and you coming into that as a collaborator on that project, there's obviously your piece in there too. You've got something that you want to express and contribute to that as well. Sometimes you get to do that and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you write out the chart and they want you to play the guitar part as close to the chart as possible. And then other people give you more leeway. They want you to create more of the part. So how do you wrestle with that? Obviously going into the studio, you drive in. Do you go in with an empty mind, totally flexible, or have you got this stuff bouncing around your head, these melodies and ideas? And you got to go in empty. It's not your record. It's not your studio. It's not your music. So you got to go in empty. Otherwise, if you're going with anything on your mind, you're wrong. Not how it's done. You got to go in empty and know that you're going to facilitate this person's record or this person's ideas. How do you do that? How do you build that? Because people in business do that every day effectively. The owner of the business, hey, it's their business, it's their vision. They've got a place where they want this business to go and where they want to take it. It's the same way. You do it the same way, only you do it creatively and you do it musically. So what's the mindset? How do you cultivate that mindset? Do you have to remind yourself of that? Do you ever get caught in that trap and you think, geez, I really want to hold on to this? I'm already like that before I got in. And I was like that since I was a kid. So I've had more training doing that than doing the other. So I'm pre-trained as a kid to go in, and if the spinners want their song like this, play the guitar part that's on the record, play the part that needs to be there. Yeah, do the job as best as you can is sort of what it sounds like. Yeah. How about this? Even now, after I've had hit records and everything, people call me to play on their record because they know that when they get Ray Parker Jr. playing the guitar, it's not Ray Parker Jr. the artist. It's not Ray Parker Jr. who did Ghostbusters. It's not Ray Parker Jr. the singer. It's Ray Parker. It's the part of Ray Parker Jr. that plays the guitar, and they know that I'm going to leave everything else out of the studio. Yeah. And I'm the best guy for the job. So that's why they still call me, because they know they don't have to feel it. For sure. And then contrasting that, I mean, you've been on, as you said, you've done this for so long. I mean, I was looking it up and doing some research, and I mean, back when you're 18, you start working with Stevie Wonder. You get on a tour with the Rolling Stones. Now, these days you think of Stevie Wonder, you think of the Rolling Stones. You've got two very different pictures in your mind about these people. Just the imagination to have them on the same bill is a struggle. But just for everyone listening, what's it like being 18 on the road with Stevie Wonder to start with, but then in this worldwide thing of the Rolling Stones? I mean, can you take us back to that at all? And what do you remember of that?
Well, first of all, when I first showed up at the first concert, I thought the Rolling Stones were opening for Stevie Wonder. Okay, I'm from Detroit. Stevie Wonder's huge in Detroit. It's Motown, right? Rolling Stones, I mean, they come from England, but that's quite a bit away, you know. So at 18 years old, I'm like, well, Stevie Wonder's got a lot of hits. My Sharia, more, you know, Fingertips. I mean, the Rolling Stones, wow, they're going to be opening up, you know, those guys. You know, so I was quite surprised when it was the other way around. So my life started like that, you know.
Right.
And then they were like bigger than big, limousines. They were almost untouchable. But I must admit that the Keith Richards and Mick and all those guys, those are fun guys. Charlie Watts, they couldn't be a nicer group of guys. They're nice guys to hang out with. They're fun. You can talk to them. You can just, you know, hang out and relax. And, you know, just the girls. I mean, what do we say about the girls? I mean, I think I learned about women on that tour. To say the most. I didn't know anything about girls until I got on that tour. You know? So for me, that tour was a life changer.
Right. I heard you describe it in one interview as being that was your college. You said that your father was always disappointed he didn't go to college, but that was it.
My parents were upset that I dropped out of college, but I feel like I graduated from Wonder University.
Not a bad university to go to.
Not a bad place to be.
Well, we do need to talk about this, and I was going to start the show with it, but we've jumped right in, which is fantastic. But you guys sitting here today talking to me about this is all to do with a new movie that you're putting together, a film and a project that you've got. Fran, maybe you can kick us off, but where are we? What is it you guys are up to?
Yeah, for sure. So in Hired Gun, you know, Ray grew up in the chair with, you know, Jay Graydon and David Foster and Lukather and all those guys. And I felt in Hired Gun, their story was just way too big for that movie. That's why there's not more of those guys in that film, because each guy could have their own 3-hour episode, right? Mm-hmm. And it just happened, you know, just traveling with Ray so much, man. We'd be on these long flights and just talking about his career, his childhood. And it kind of opened my eyes. I'm like, man, there's a really cool, compelling story here, because everybody knows him from Ghostbusters. And if there's some fans of radio or, you know, Ray Parker Jr. fans, but what they don't know is all the thousands of other songs that he's played on, written, produced. And one of them, just like I said, the Bill Withers stuff. I had no idea that he played on that song. It's a huge, iconic song. And there's many more that he's unraveling to me. But it's really his story. The music's kind of in the background, just like Hired Gun for me. The music's just a part of the story. The story is the human being. And hearing what Ray went through in 1967 and the Detroit riots was gut-wrenching. And to see him pop out on the other side and be successful and actually do something with himself, it's just a great story. It's just a feel-good, like Rocky type story, you know. And he's been really cool. He's been open. He's like, you know, trust you. I'm going to let you in all the way and do what you need to do to make the best movie that you can to portray.
And because of the things you just said, the studio work I've done with all the other people, touring with all the other people, it's not just my story, right? So you don't get, well, what day did you write Jack and Jill? Oh, it was on a Thursday. Okay, well, what day did you write Can't Change That? It's not just boom, boom, boom. It's all of the fun that happens. What's it like to hang out in Marvin Gaye's living room after you cut some tracks at Motown and you're 15 years old and you're writing songs with him and you don't know what writing songs is? You know,
we're trying to teach Stevie Wonder how to drive.
Yeah, or teach what's it like to be in the car with Stevie Wonder and he's demanded that you let him drive or he's going to give you $100 fine. So, you know, what does that feel? And you have very little job security because you just got on the job good. And Stevie Wonder saying, I want to drive the car and I want you riding with me, directing me on which way to go. What's that like? You know?
Oh, man.
Or what's it like for Stevie Wonder to call you on the phone and you keep hanging up on him all the time, you know, over and over and then, you know, or just many things like the experiences in Detroit. What's it like for Van, whatever his name is, to be
Morrison, yeah.
Be standing in my hotel room at 3 a.m. while I ain't got no clothes on? What's he thinking about? You know. Yeah. So I mean, there's all these many things that go on in the story.
It sounds like it's going to be an absolute blast to watch. I think that, and there is that message. I mean, you look at the trailer, I think the campaign on Indiegogo, which we'll touch on a bit later on, but you look at that and there's some real heavy stuff in there. And I'm interested to know from both of you, one, Fran, from your side of pulling the film together, and Ray, yours being your story. But why do you think this is so important? And the reason why I ask is because we talk about purpose a lot and finding purpose when we start building teams and doing stuff with collaborations and working in businesses. So for you guys, when you start a project like this, what was both of your reasons for why it was so important?
I think we should tell the story. I mean, this is part of history that people should know about. And if you don't tell your own history, somebody else will tell it later, and they'll box the whole thing up. Yeah. Exactly. They'll have me playing the blues instead of, something else. So, I mean, it's nice to be involved in telling your own story and your own part of history and get it across. Plus, I think that just from a spiritual side, people who are born in less, more impoverished areas would like to get this story and see, how do you get from the ghetto to Calabasas or Beverly Hills? What happens on the way there? Everybody always says, oh, yeah, so-and-so did this. Yeah, but what really happened? How did you get there? What were the steps along the way? What decisions were made? And what really happened to take this person there? I think that's a very compelling story that most people don't get to. You just hear, oh, so-and-so did this, and he made money, and that was it. So you never really get the truth of what happened along the way and why did somebody do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I sent that his words. It's all about decisions. I grew up in government housing, up until I was about 13 years old, food stamps, government food, the whole thing. And it's just making the right decision. My mother always said, you're a product of your environment. So just be careful who you choose for your friends. Mm-hmm. And that stuck with me, man. I've never been in trouble, never really got into drugs or have a glass of wine at night or whatnot. But I was always focused on making myself better and getting out of a shit sandwich, which I happened to do, So, yeah, I don't want to say our paths are similar because he was on Hyperbole. And
the concept is similar.
Yeah, the concept. I'm very happy where I am in my career, very proud of all the accomplishments or whatnot. But the stories are
a lot further.
Yeah.
Slightly unhappy.
I'm
behind schedule.
Yeah. But I saw his story. I saw myself in that a little bit. As a kid growing up in the projects, running away from gangsters or whatever. And getting out and doing something for myself.
That's cool. And I think that's important to tell these sort of stories because there's so many people today that say you can't do it, or because, unless you're part of the big players, there's no room for people to be individuals. There's no room for one person to push out and succeed. You've got to tack on. And I think that's different to what we talk about as collaboration and being part of a team. It's a very different dynamic that people are being fed in terms of how you succeed today.
Right. Well, look, if you would have told me when I was 17 that I'd be sitting in Ray Parker Jr.'s house as an adult making a movie or making films or being successful living in Marin County or any of that, I would have told you you're crazy. So it's this really hard work, determination. Some of it is sort of who you know or you run into along the way, and you've got to deliver a great product every time.
And by the way, when I was 17 years old, if you told me I'd be living in Ray Parker Jr., oh, you're crazy. This ain't going to never happen. What are you talking about?
This house is beautiful.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Oh, and that's true. But the other thing we can talk about then is courage. I mean, it must take a tremendous amount of courage to stand in the face of everyone that says you can't, or everything you see that says you can't, or the environment that obviously you're growing up with, Ray, that says at all costs and in all mindsets, this ain't going to happen for you.
First of all, my entire life exudes the courage. And I'm going to tell you where it comes from. A lot of people don't know where the courage comes from, and it's all around them, and they just choose not to see it. For instance, if there was a time that I think Sly Stone or somebody thought I borrowed part of his song, right? So I went to a meeting, and him and his brother were at the meeting, and they stared at me down. They stared me down like this, that mean look, mm-hmm. And they stared at me for about 30 minutes and never took their eyes off of me. Okay, a lot of people say, oh, man, I offended Sly. He doesn't like me. I'm in trouble, That's not the way I took it. I took it as, wow, I'm important enough for...
Find the slideshow with my data in your music.
No, it's my cell phone, whatever that was. But
let's go.
It was one of those things where because him and his brother stared at me for 20 minutes and he's my hero, that means I'm important. It's almost like what I see the president doing now. Why is he tweeting if somebody says something about him? If you respond to it, that means that makes the other person important. So that's where I found my courage. If Stevie Wonder was to take me in the studio, well, I can't be too bad. I mean, Stevie Wonder has use for me, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm something on the planet if all these people need me. And, so one built off the other. And so you build momentum with your ego, and I think a positive ego is a really good thing. I think the people that I worry about are people who have no ego. Even with a girl, you get a girlfriend who has no ego, she's out looking at all the other guys to fulfill her ego that she can't fulfill with one person because she doesn't believe in herself. So I think I try to teach my kids a positive ego is a good thing.
Yeah, and how does that manifest as opposed to, I mean, we've all got this in mind. I think, Fran, we even spoke about it, that idea about being arrogant versus being confident.
Right.
See, those are two things. There's arrogant where you piss off everybody because you're offending everybody. And then there's confidence and with some mild section of arrogance to show, hey, this guy believes in himself. He can do it. Or I want to go join him because I know he's going to do it. He believes he can do it. And so they're close together. It's almost like love and hate, but they're really different things. Mm-hmm. One guy can just piss everybody off no matter what he does. And the other guy is giving you enough energy where you believe that he can do it. Because if you're mild-mannered, most companies and stuff, they don't want to put money into you because they don't believe you can do it. And if you don't think you can do it, we sure don't think you can do it, So that's just the way it is,
Yeah, and I think it's almost like a triangle. It's like you call them teeter-totters. It's like a seesaw. And on that fulcrum, I think, that sits there is something called awareness. I think that's what determines whether you slide and go arrogant or whether you come back and say, hey, no, healthy ego. I think there's got to be a level of awareness.
Oh, yeah. Awareness now. All this YouTube and other stuff, that's even more than it was before, You got to be aware of what you're wearing to go get a coffee now because there's people taking pictures. I mean, it's like everything going on, as well as aware as who you are, where you are in society, where you are. So, man, I'm awake now, more so than ever. Before you could at least go off the grid, let's say. I don't even know if you get off the grid. And I think as soon as you walk outside, and maybe even while you're in the house, you're still on the grid,
Yeah. Franny, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we go do these screenings. My happy zone was when we went to Australia or the UK or Chicago, Nashville, and we got the same crowd reaction at every one. That was a boost of confidence for me as a filmmaker that told me that I did my job properly. First, I made the movie that I wanted to make because I love going through all kinds of emotions watching the film. I want to laugh, I want to cry, I want to cheer, I want to be sad. And I think that a hired gun emotes all those emotions. And I was confident going in that we had nailed it. And Ray was at South by Southwest for the world premiere, and man, it was like going to a rock concert, man, watching that film. It really was. People were jumping up and down their seats, screaming and cheering, during all the jam stuff and laughing and crying. So, and as my confidence as a film, I'm confident now. I was terrified going into making Hired Gun because I gave up a lucrative 6-figure career touring and laser focus on making this movie and doing it right the first time. And we did it. I hear all these filmmakers like, man, it was so hard to get it wasn't hard. It was easy only because we had the financing. When you have the financing and the person believes in you and your vision, there's nothing to worry about. It's just you delivering that product and making sure you do it the best you can. And as you do, I'm sure you research like crazy who you're going to interview. And I was saying that I'd spend 2 weeks interviewing, researching my interviewers and starting like that. So, yeah, the confidence game is strong, and I'm really excited about this new project because we're shooting a bunch of it on film, which is exciting to me because I think film exudes more of the emotion. Mm-hmm. It's a lot softer palette and you can do a lot more with it. So I'm super excited about it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it now. I've got one more thing I'm going to come back to, but we're talking about the film. So let's talk about the campaign and what you guys are up to. I want to know, how can people help? Obviously, this is a collaboration. And again, you've gone out and done the campaign thing, crowdfunding, and looking to get people involved from the get-go, which I think is just so awesome. And it builds up so much buy-in.
I consider this a little bit of seed money to get things just going. And it's a chance for the fans to come in and actually get a piece of something and be a part of the filmmaking. So it's not like they were just asking for their money. They don't get anything in return. They're getting some really cool perks, Ray will sign sheet music to Ghostbusters or whatever.
Kiss all the pretty girls.
Kiss all the pretty girls. It's the hand of a nice gentleman that'll give up a couple $100,000. There's everything in there. I just urge everybody to go to the Indiegogo campaign and just search who you're going to call and just have a look. There's a bunch of really cool stuff there.
We talk about, when I deal with teams, I talk about 3 essential keys, and they are purpose, awareness, and the third one is trust. So I think with those 3 things, any team will succeed. And I think any team lives and dies by those 3 things, the amount of trust, awareness, and purpose that people can get together with. When it comes to trust, and Ray, obviously so many times, how do you choose who to work with, and how do you get to that point? There's obviously got to be trust in that collaboration at some point. So how do you view trust, and how do you play with that as you go through all these different projects that you're working on?
Oh, that's just the people. You spend some time with the people and you take a good guess. You really do. I mean, you look at what they're doing, how they're traveling, what they're made of, and that's it. And I mean, there's a lot of flakes in the world, but I've been very fortunate to weed out most of the people who really flakes. Everything doesn't turn out perfect, but I've been good at, deleting the real flaky guys that's going to do you harm.
Yeah, right. And I think though that sounds to me like it comes from a place where you're willing to trust to start with. It's not, am I going to give it? You start to give before the trust is given. Do you know what I mean? Some people start with, you've got to show me and you've got to prove to me and you're going to earn it and I can take it back in a second and all this stuff. It becomes, it becomes crazy. To make this stuff work and to have the sort of career you've got, I think there's got to be that place where you come at it at a different angle.
Well, anybody making a record knows that. You call them musicians, you don't know what you're going to get. And just because the musician may be the best drummer in the world, it may not work on your record. So the whole thing is trust regardless of it. That's the best you can hope for, is having the best musicians. And that may not work,
Yeah.
So you're putting it all together and you're throwing it all in. So many times, I mean, my entire life is based on guessing, as opposed to someone who just goes, to a job and they say, do this,
Well, I think people aren't willing to guess anymore. People have stopped guessing. People have stopped. They'll sit back and say, you just tell me what you want and I'll go and do it. You know what I mean? And that it's soul destroying for the people that do it. And just to think about it for people, when you see people doing that, you just think you want to shake them and say, hey, wake up. There's more to be done.
What's sad, and most people don't think about it, we've had all these TV shows, American Idol, The Voice, a bunch of shows. And over 20 years, they've only managed to really bring out 3 or 4 stars. If they were a record company combined, they'd all be out of business. And what's unfortunate about that is these shows are selling TV time. They're not doing the music. And they try to put the artist in the studio that wins, that won the show. And the problem is they know how to sing Stevie Wonder's song well, or, Dolly Parton's song well. But when it's time for them to sing their own song, I've been in the studio with them because they hire me as the musician sometimes. They want to get the best band, the best musician, the best producers, but they just don't know what to do. They're like, well, tell me what to do. And I say, remember when Aretha Franklin saying R-E-S-P-E-C-T, she put that in the song, right?
Yeah.
But they don't do that. They just know, well, if you sing it for me, I can sing it, but I don't know what to sing if you don't sing it for me. And so they really don't know how to develop their own style and their own music in the studio. So it's interesting that those shows are based on them copying someone else.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's very interesting. That brings up a question around like talent versus creativity. And
Of
people
course.
getting confused with that. They're 2 different things from what you're saying.
They're very 2 different things. In fact, most of the acts you hear on the radio would lose if they were on American Idol because they can't sing that well. You know what I mean? And I won't mention names, but think of all the hit people that made big records. They can't get on TV at American Idol. You'd be like booed off the stage because they're waiting to hear that huge voice, And most of the people who cut hit records don't have that huge voice. They have a different kind of voice, or they have a style that works for them. And that's what's so different about it.
So do you think people then value, and I'll ask this question, do you think people value you for your creativity or for your talent? Which one do you think they value you more for?
I think they're both intertwined.
Right.
The creativity and the talent. But I think people buy my records. I don't think I sound like Marvin Gaye or Luther Vandross, but I think they buy my records because my voice is sincere kind of turns the girls on a little bit. And I write those songs that go with my voice. So the whole thing as a package is creatively one.
Right. So it's in sync with itself almost. It's not trying to be something different or impersonate, as you said, that can happen so easily on these shows.
Yeah, lately we've had a couple of artists sing a Star Spangled Banner who shouldn't have, you know? And it just goes to show you some of the people that lose American Idol, they can sing the heck out the Star Spangled Banner, right? I mean, they would kill that song, you know. But some of the people with hit records, they can't touch it, you know. So it's a different type of talent.
All right. Well, guys, I'm mindful of the time, so I don't want to keep you all night. It looks like it's a beautiful evening over there. So
yeah, we're good. We're good.
You're all good? Okay, cool. We'll keep going. What I wanted to ask you, what we're going to do actually, let's do this instead, because I think we're going well, and I want to get both of your answers on this, so it could take a little bit longer. And Fran, I'm interested from your perspective, because from when we did it last time to now, some answers might have shifted.
Yeah,
but Ray, for you, we're going to talk about what I call the Barnraisers top 10. So this is the top 10. These are 10 questions I ask everyone at the end of each interview that I do. So everyone who's been on the show goes through it. So if you're up for it, you want to do
I'll go first. Go.
Okay. What is one thing you feel must be present or created for a team to succeed?
Present or created for a team to succeed. Belief, confidence, ego.
Beautiful. There we go. We've got 3. Perfect. Fran, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I would echo that same thing, because I'm finding that out making this new film with Ray now, like getting a crew together, who worked well with me last time and who didn't. And I'm like, Ray, I weed out the wheelies, and I've got the most confident, great team that you could ever ask for that's going to work on this film.
All right. What is one thing you feel must be avoided or overcome in order for a team to succeed?
Avoid it. Well, people who don't tell the truth, people who spend all of your money, people who tell you things that really aren't true, it really ain't the way it is, that sort of a thing. I think you got to avoid that.
Yeah, for me, it's making sure the person isn't bullshitting you.
Exactly.
And then that's one thing I learned on Hired Gun, man. There were some guys that came in, I was like, I can do this, I can do that. And we're paying them large sums of money.
They couldn't do anything.
And I'm like, did you call this person and set this meeting up? No. Well, you're fired.
Right.
After the third. I gave him a couple of shots, but after a while, if you're not producing results, you're making me look bad, making my team look bad, bringing morale down, and just spoiling the milk. So you got to go.
And you've got to set that standard. I mean, if that slips, it slips for everyone all of a sudden.
Well, everything comes on your shoulders. You're the director. The final project is your name's on it, and it's got to be up to your standard. If it's not, then you got to fix it and correct that ship.
Absolutely. All right. Number 3. What team, either current or historic, would you love to have been a member of?
Historic for me would probably be the Beatles. I like those songs,
Yeah.
I would like to have been right next to Paul McCartney. I think I would have learned a lot, felt a lot.
Right.
I know that look. I mean, just picture a picture of me standing in the Beatles. I mean, that's funny enough. Especially with my big afro. But I could have envisioned that easily. Yeah.
So is that someone you've never worked with, Paul McCartney?
I worked with George Harrison and I worked with Ringo Starr. Yeah. And John got shot, so I never got to work with him. And I just never met Paul McCartney.
Time to work on something. I'd have loved to have worked on the original Star Wars.
Yeah.
And that cast and crew and how that whole thing came about, just like leapfrogged into what it is today. Yeah. And one of the cool things is when we did the audience test screening for Hired Gun, I live in a town called San Rafael, and that is where Star Wars was created, right there. And the building that we did the screening in was the original Lucasfilm. Where they did Star Wars, and the sound stage is still there. And I was like, can I just peek in there and just look, please? And there it is, the green screen and everything else. And you're just kind of like, oh my God, man. And that's where George Lucas created and invented THX, Yep. So I was like, my movie's never going to sound as good anywhere else after here. So that would have been cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
To work back in that era.
I'm still upset I didn't get to play Landau Calrissian.
Yeah.
There's a and me and Billy D. Williams, and I was with him a few weeks ago, and I showed him the picture. Somebody took a picture of him and a picture of me and put them side by side at the same age. Of course, he's older than I am, and even he laughed at it. I mean, we look just alike. I thought, okay, well, if he's too, older to be in Star Wars, I'm right. He was when he was doing it. Put me in Star Wars. I got to get somebody to send that picture.
You're in. We'll work on that. We'll start a campaign. We'll put that
and
in.
We see next Star Wars. Send it to Disney now.
All right, we're on it. Number 4. Who is an ultimate team player in your eyes and why?
An ultimate team player. Well, I'm completely stuck on that. Who is an ultimate team player and why? I don't know.
I'll tell you who I think is one. Only because I know the band, and they talk so highly of him, is Alice Cooper.
Okay.
I mean, they say that he's just the most pleasurable person, like, we would work for free almost.
Right.
He's just so cool, accommodating, just one of the nicest people ever. And I've only met the guy one time when I interviewed him for the movie, and he made me feel right at home because I was freaking out because I've loved Alice Cooper since I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I've always known him as the guy that has a dead baby with a knife.
Yeah.
I mean, so he's knocking on the door of the hotel where we got all the studio stuff set up, and I'm shaking because I'm like, he's going to come here with a sword.
Yeah, right. What's going to happen?
No, he came in, it was just warm, welcoming, just friendly, and made me feel right at home. So I love the way that organization works. I've seen it, and it runs like a machine, and everybody's so happy.
The team player, I'm completely baffled. I wouldn't know what to say.
Yeah,
that wasn't my experience. Most of the wasn't a team experience,
right?
Really? Okay. Maybe if one pops into your head, just give me a shout, and we could.
But I'm used to more dictatorship, I think.
Oh God.
I'll change the question. Who's the most benevolent dictator that you've ever experienced?
I can't answer that because they're still alive.
Yeah. All right, we'll let that one slide. So that's a pass from Ray. All right, that's cool. Where are we now? All right, what 3 qualities make someone a great teammate or colleague?
What 3 qualities?
I'm going to say honesty, sincerity, and trustworthy.
Yeah, contribution.
Yeah.
If you're not contributing, you're not a team player. I mean, you're out.
Yeah.
But it's not, even if it ain't your fault and you're not contributing, you're out. If you don't have anything to contribute, you're just out.
You're just hanging out.
You're just out. Yeah, you're just out.
That's right. I agree. I think it's
both of our industries.
Yeah, and how about this? That's the saddest part. I mean, it may be somebody you really, really like, but they have nothing to contribute, and everybody keeps waiting on something to happen.
And sometimes they're making more money than you.
Exactly. Yeah. How about that?
Yep, for sure. You see that in business all the time too. The guys get the gig, they get the promotion, they sit in the room, they come in and they sit there and sometimes for months because they don't do what you did, Fran. There's not that sense of we've got a standard to uphold. The standards aren't as strictly met as what they should be.
Right.
All right. Here we go. Maybe we can do this one then, Ray, from another perspective. What 3 qualities make someone a great coach or manager?
Patience, sincerity, and encouragement.
Very cool. Fran?
So, I'm going to say the same thing. I can't think of anything better, to be honest with you.
It's a good answer. Very good answer. Number 7. What is one thing that instantly makes you feel part of a team?
When I get paid well. When I'm underpaid, I don't feel like they like me. I don't feel like I'm part of the club. I feel like I missed somewhere,
For me, in my projects that I do, I've been doing a little bit of commercial work here lately and the film and stuff prior. But for me, all that takes a team. And so when look, making a movie and putting it out is very, very difficult because there's, people just go out and film it, put stuff. No, you've got legal hurdles to clear. You've got egos, people upset because they're not in the movie enough and all this other shit. But when you finally get it all together and it looks and it sounds and it resonates and everything else, no matter what project I'm on, that to me is the ultimate team collaboration. And it's there for you to watch. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, the product of the collaboration is the product.
It's the product. And that's the ultimate team play right there. Because without them, I can't do it on my own. You know what? David Foster told me something really cool. He's like, he goes, the reason I'm so successful isn't because of me.
Yeah.
He goes, I surround myself with people better than me.
Right.
And it just elevates my game.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's true of everyone, but they just don't look at it that way. They choose for some reason not to see it that way.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Everyone's product is the result of a collaboration. I always say that nothing of value is created in isolation.
I mean, look, people can have their egos flaring up or whatnot, but I'm here to tell you right now, if I didn't have Gavin Fisher, our editor, and cinematographer, the movie would not have looked the way that it did. And edited. And if I didn't have Thomas, my sound guy, Thomas Corcoran's a genius at sound. I mean, we interviewed 60 people, and it all sounds so cohesive and continuity-wise. And the mixer at Skywalker Sound gave him the highest compliment because this is the best sounding audio that I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. So, I love my team. There's people, I won't make a movie without them. I'll wait for their other projects to finish so I can bring them back in. They're that important. Yeah,
for sure. Well, that's great. That's really cool. All right. What's one thing then that instantly makes you feel excluded from a team?
Excluded from a team. Well, one is bad treatment. Huh?
Yeah.
Then you immediately, if they don't talk to you right, rudeness.
You know what I don't like? People talking shit behind your back.
Yeah.
And your core team,
your core team.
Yeah, if they're talking behind your back and belittling you or squashing on your ideas, they're not just coming out and being honest with you about something. Yeah, that's the shit feeling.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah,
that's a big signal too. I mean, if someone's not willing to, that's part of the contribution. If you've got something to contribute it. Don't come out and shit cam me in the back. Do you know what I mean?
If you hate my idea, tell me.
Exactly. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Don't tell me after it's too late for me to do anything either.
Right.
Tell me ahead.
Yeah. Now it's too late. We printed it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Well, I've been knowing all along that was screwed. Right. Why'd you say something 3 weeks?
Yeah, for sure. All right. What is your fondest? This is question number 9. What is your fondest team memory?
Team memory. Well, you're into this team stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I ain't really been on a team. What team have I been on? First of all, what team have I been on?
Let me tell you something. I'll tell you something right now.
Yeah.
I was just over here on the couch laying down when he had his son in here. Jericho's so talented. Mm-hmm. And Ray, as a team member, was coaching his son, almost producing him a little bit.
That's the best one. He's right. That's a good team experience.
That gave me chills, man. There's not a lot of good fathers out there.
Yeah.
Being a good father is an ultimate team player.
Yeah.
So absolutely. To see that go down and to get creative with him and actually care.
Yeah, I'm on my son's team.
Yeah.
And what's even crazier is he actually listens to me a little bit.
He does.
Yeah.
He was taking all of his suggestions because his pop has wrote a ton of hits.
Yep.
That was so cool.
So you're on a team, Ray.
I'm on a team.
Team Parker.
Team Parker. Yeah, that's it.
That'll do. Sometimes that's all it takes.
He was so close to me I couldn't see it. I was
exactly.
looking over the team.
Yeah.
But you're right. That's a team. And my other son, Gibson, too.
Yeah.
So we're all a team.
Yeah, for sure. All right, number 10. What is one thing you would like to hear a coach, manager, boss, or teammate say about you?
About me?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to hear any of those guys tell me that I'm doing a good job, that I give them encouragement, and give them some good suggestions that have helped their project.
I know during the hired gun making, because I took that film so serious, there was a lot riding on that movie. I was not the easiest person to work with sometimes. I wasn't being an asshole to people. It was like I demanded, bring results. Yeah. If you don't bring results, I'm going to turn into a bear, basically, in a timely manner because time's money. And I was using a very good friend of mine's money, and I took that very serious.
Right.
I forgot the question. So wrapped up.
Before we go any further, move your head over a little bit. Who's that?
Who's Jerk?
No, the other way. The other way.
Eltham.
0.
They are that's my son's basketball team.
Oh, cool.
And they were the national champions in Australia last year for the under 14s.
Oh, cool.
So we're actually coming out to the States in August to play in the Junior NBA World Championship. So we're the Asia Pacific representatives in Orlando.
Orlando, okay.
Yeah. So it's a big NBA thing that's happening that we were lucky enough to be part of. So that's the singlet thing when they won then their medal from when they won the championships.
Is that Larry Bird back there dribbling the basketball?
I was thinking, who's the rock band above him?
Oh, okay. The rock band above, that's All Hair. So that's Bon Jovi from the New Jersey album back in '89.
That's what I thought it was.
You know what's funny is Richie Sambora.
He lives 2 doors down from me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I'll tell you this. I see Richie all the time. They don't look like that no more.
No. I know. None of us do.
I don't know if I answered your last question, but
I was just saying, what was the one thing you'd like to hear a coach, manager, boss, or teammate say about you?
oh, you know what? None of them did. None of my not my main core people, but like the distributor or like my partner never said, awesome job on the movie.
Is that my team leader coming in?
Really?
Yeah.
It's my wife, the team leader's coming in.
Now my core team, we're
Come
all
on in, dear.
almost crying,
Yeah.
There's the team leader.
There she is.
Come on, team leader. Come around. We're talking team sports. Come on.
Poor guys in
There's
Australia.
the team leader here.
How are you?
Hi, how are you? Lovely to meet you.
He's showing
Very
that. That's
good.
his picture. He likes a Bon Jovi. I don't know which one's Richie.
That's Richie on
But
the
they all
end.
got. Look at
Oh
they
my
all got the
God.
hair.
That's so 80s hair.
It is, isn't it? It is. I'm giving away lots of things by that poster being up there, but it's
My
cool.
wife,
Wow.
she's a team spirit player. She gave me two sons that are enormously talented, who are going to support me in the manner in which I've grown.
Oh my God.
See, we've been talking about teams now for what, 50 minutes, and you're all in. It's great.
Yeah.
Your wife. Sorry, what's your wife's name, Ray?
This is Elaine.
Elaine. Hi, I'm Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Elaine Parker.
Oh, that's a good guess.
I'll ask Elaine the question that you couldn't come up with the answer for, Ray. Who is an ultimate team player in your eyes, and why?
Oh, like as far as in our family or anybody?
Anybody.
Like,
Anyone you like.
oh my gosh, that's a hard
That's a
one.
hard question.
In life, like,
Because you're a mum and a wife and all that, you can say yourself.
well, I was thinking that actually, but it
Ah.
seems to,
Arrogant.
Right.
After yesterday, I feel like I was the team player of the family.
Oh my God.
I surprised him. I flew in his son and his
Oh.
fiance as a surprise for
My
Easter.
oldest son, yeah.
So, and then I got up at 4:30 and made coffee cake and for everybody, and then made the Easter dinner.
I was
you
married
missed.
for
So yes,
4 years.
it's
My
me.
wife never.
It is you. Let's say it. Ray, come on, man. That was a gimme.
Oh my.
Me.
Yeah.
No, Ray can be a team player once in a while. I don't know. He
Can be a team.
Oh.
can be.
I heard it.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And I've just noticed, Ray, what's written on your T-shirt, actually.
Yeah.
Team sucks.
Team.
Team. There you go, huh?
Wow. Well, it's like we all play tennis, but tennis isn't so much of a team sport. It's like an individual sport, but we try and make it like a team.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
actually, we
that's
play
cool.
pretty good as a team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
we
awesome.
do.
There you go. They're everywhere. I'm telling you, everyone, they are everywhere. All right, listen, guys. I'm not going to hold you up too much more. Listen, I want to say thank you for your time today and for being so generous with your time and help to pull all this together. And where can we get have you got links and stuff that you want to share with everyone? And where can we contact you and all that sort of thing?
So you can go to the Indiegogo.com and then go in the search bar, look under films, and look for who you're going to call, and you'll see it there. And like I said, there's a lot of great perks on there. And for Ray, his official Facebook page is Ray Parker Jr. 1 on Facebook.
It is one?
Yep.
It's
The
that
number
on,
one.
It's that on Instagram. I don't know if it's that on
It's
Facebook.
the same. Yeah, it's the same on Facebook as well. And then on
Because I
Twitter,
thought Facebook is just Ray Parker Jr.
no, it's Ray Parker Jr. 1.
Okay.
Number 1.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
that's because I.
Okay.
That's
That's probably because I already had Ray Parker Jr.
Yeah,
on
you
Facebook.
probably did. Yeah,
So you
that's,
got Ray
that's
Parker
personal.
Facebook personal, then Ray
Yeah.
Parker Jr. 1 on Facebook, then Ray Parker Jr. 1 on Instagram, then RayParkerJr.com, which is a mess right now, but we're working on, and then O'Rayo on Twitter.
Yeah,
I think
that's
it's
your official
O'Rayo
Twitter,
on
yeah.
Twitter.
And then
we'll pull all that together.
yeah.
Oh, Ray. Oh, Twitter.
And look, we hope to bring this film to the Melbourne International Film Festival. So
When's that?
that was in August, right?
Yeah.
I think that was in August.
Okay, cool. Well,
Mhm.
hopefully we can catch you out there.
Lane's leaving.
I
She's
know.
bored.
Eileen, thank you so much for
Way to
being
be a
our
team
special guest of the show.
team right now.
Bye.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks again for your time. I really do appreciate it. It's been a real treat.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Well, how enjoyable was that? As you can tell, we had a blast recording the show. And I have to admit, things did get a little loose towards the end. And I must say also a big thanks to Ray's wife, Elaine, for being such a good sport and joining in the fun. Seriously, we recorded this over Skype with the video cameras turned on, and the guys were so much fun and so generous with their energy and time that it seriously felt like I was right there in the studio with them. And for that, again, I have to say a big thank you. Now, if you're inspired by listening to Ray and Fran talk about their next great collaboration, the movie Who You Gonna Call, the Ray Parker Jr. story, all you need to do is jump on the web and head to the crowdfunding site Indiegogo and search for Who You Gonna Call. The link's in the show notes. As the guys said, this is about giving fans like you and I the chance to be part of the team and, in the process, back what is going to be one of the most celebrated documentaries of the year. There's also some really fun bonuses and perks they've put together, so I really do urge you to go and check it out. Of course, if you want to connect with Ray online, you can do that by heading to Facebook, Twitter or Instagram and use the handle RayParkerJr1. Or you can go to his website, rayparkerjr.com. Of course, Fran is also online, and to follow his adventures, and there's some pretty cool ones in there, I've got to say, check out Instagram and Facebook. It's at Fran Strine. Lastly, I do want to say, if you haven't seen it, make sure you jump on Netflix and watch the documentary Hired Gun. It is truly an amazing film, and the music and the stories behind the music will blow you away. Well, I think that's it. Oh wait, hang on. One more thing. I have some news too. Recently, I did an upgrade on my own social media links, and now I have a new handle. Just one, thank goodness. It's the same now for Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and you can find me at @DanStones. On there, you'll learn everything I'm up to in terms of Barnraisers, Shifting Peers, my team training company, and all sorts of other bits and pieces. So please do get in touch. Let me know what you think of the show. Better yet, tell someone else as well, or leave us a review on iTunes. And if you are serious about working on your own team, then why not join me for our next webinar on the 5 steps to building an unbeatable team culture? To get all the details and save yourself a spot, head over to www.discovertheupside.com. And with that, we're done. I've been Dan Stones. You've been listening to Barnraisers. And until next time, remember, great teams don't agree. They commit. Bye for now.